therefore, appear to be parts of the political communion, but such like friendships follow such like communions. CHAPTER X. There are, however, three species of a polity, and as many deviations from them, which are, as it were, the corruptions of these polities. But the polities indeed are, a kingdom, an aristocracy, and the third is derived from the distribution of honours through the medium of wealth, which, as it seems, may be appropriately called a timocracy. Most men, however, are accustomed to call it simply a polity. But of these a kingdom is the best, and a timocracy is the worst. The deviation, also, from a kingdom is indeed a tyranny, for both are monarchies. They differ, however, very much from each other. For the tyrant, indeed, looks to his own advantage, but the king to the advantage of those whom he governs. For he is not a king who is not sufficient to himself, and who does not surpass his subjects in every kind of good. But a man of this description is in want of nothing. Hence, his attention will not be directed to what is advantageous to himself, but to the benefit of those whom he governs. For he who is not a person of this description will be a certain elected king. A tyrant, however, is the contrary to a king, properly so called. For he pursues his own good. And from this it is more evident that he is the worst of rulers. For that which is contrary to the best is the worst. But the transition from a kingdom is into a tyranny. For a tyranny is the depravity of a monarchy, and a depraved king becomes a tyrant. The transition from an aristocracy is into an oligarchy, through the vice of the governors, who distribute civil offices in a manner contrary to desert, bestow upon themselves all, or the greater part of every thing that is good, and always appoint the same persons magistrates, paying more attention to wealth than to any thing else. Those, therefore, that govern are few, and are depraved, instead of being the most worthy men. But the transition from a timocracy is into a democracy, since these polities border on each other. For in a timocracy, also, the multitude have dominion, and all those that are rich are equal. A democracy, however, is in the smallest degree depraved. For it deviates but little from the form of a polity, i.e. from a timocracy. After this manner, therefore, polities are especially changed. For thus they are changed the least, and the most easily. The resemblances, however, and as it were paradigms of them, may be derived from families. For the communion, or society between a father and his children, has the form of a kingdom. For a father pays attention to his children for their own sake. Hence, also, Homer calls Jupiter father, for the intention of a kingdom is to be a paternal government. But among the Persians, the government of a father is tyrannical, for they use their children as slaves. The government, likewise, of a master towards his servants is tyrannical. For in this government, that alone which is advantageous to the master is performed. This, therefore, appears to be right. But the Persian government is erroneous. For of things that are different, the governments also are different. But the government of man and wife appears to be aristocratic. For the man governs according to desert, and in those things in which it is proper for the man to govern. But he permits his wife to rule over such things as are adapted to be governed by a woman. If the man, however, has dominion in all things, the government is changed into an oligarchy. For he does this contrary to desert, and not so far as he is the better character. But it sometimes happens that women, in consequence of being heiresses, govern, even in things pertaining to men. The government, therefore, in this case, is not according to virtue, but is through wealth and power, in the same manner as in oligarchies. And the government of brothers resembles a timocracy, for they are equal, except so far as they differ in their ages. Hence, if there is a great difference in their ages, the friendship is no longer fraternal. But a democratic government is especially to be seen in those families which are without a master. For here all govern equally. in those families, also, where he who governs is a man of a weak understanding, every one has the power of acting as he pleases. CHAPTER 11. In each of the polities, however, friendship appears to have the same extent as justice. And the friendship, indeed, between a king and his subjects, consists in transcendency of beneficence. For he benefits his subjects, since, being a good man, he is attentive to their interest, like a shepherd, in order that they may do well. Whence also Homer calls Agamemnon the shepherd of the people. Such likewise is paternal friendship, but it differs in the magnitude of the benefits which it confers. For the father is the cause of the existence of his child, which appears to be a thing of the greatest consequence, and also procures him nutriment and education. The same things likewise are attributed to progenitors. For a father is naturally adapted to rule over his children, and progenitors over the offspring of their children, and kings over their subjects. But these friendships consist in transcendency, on which account, also, parents are honoured. The just, therefore, in these is not the same, but subsists according to desert. For thus also the friendship subsists. There is likewise the same friendship between a husband and a wife, as in an aristocracy, for it subsists according to virtue, and a more ample good is attributed to the better character, and that which is adapted and appropriate is attributed to each. For thus also justice is effected. But the friendship of brothers resembles that of associates, for they are equal, and of the same age, and persons of this description apply themselves for the most part to the same disciplines, and are similar in their manners. The friendship, therefore, which exists in a democracy resembles this. For in this government it is requisite that the citizens should be equal and worthy persons. Hence they alternately and equally govern. Such therefore is the friendship of brothers. In corrupt polities, however, as the justice is but small, so likewise is the friendship, and it exists in the smallest degree in the worst polity. For in a tyranny there is either no friendship, or very little, since among those with whom there is nothing common between the governor and the governed, there is not any friendship, for neither is there any justice. But the friendship between them resembles that which is between an artist and his instrument, between the soul and the body, and between a master and his servant. For these indeed are benefited by those that use them. There is not, however, any friendship with, nor justice towards things inanimate, as neither is there towards a horse or an ox, or towards a slave, so far as he is a slave, since there is nothing common between these. For a slave is an animated instrument, but an instrument is an inanimate slave. So far, therefore, as he is a slave, there is no friendship between him and his master, but there may be so far as he is a man. For it appears that there is a certain justice due from every man towards every man who is able to partake of law and compact, and therefore there may also be a friendship between any one man and another, so far as each is a man. In tyrannical governments, however, there is but little friendship and justice, but there is very much of each in democracies. For among those that are equal, many things are common. CHAPTER 12. All friendship, therefore, as we have before observed, consists in communion. But it may be divided into that which subsists between kindred, and that which subsists between associates. But political friendships, the friendships of those of the same tribe, of those who sail together, and such like, are more similar to the friendships of associates. For they appear to exist, as it were, from compact. Among these, also, hospitable friendships may be ranked. The friendship, likewise, of kindred appears to be multiform, and the whole of it depends from paternal friendship. For parents love their children, as being something of themselves, but children love their parents, as being something proceeding from them. Parents, however, have a greater knowledge of their offspring, so as to know more accurately that they are their offspring, than the offspring know that they proceeded from their parents. And that from which a thing is generated has a greater familiarity and alliance with the thing produced.